After making a few Whirligigs, I have found a design which works best for me. And the design is taken from a book by Anders Lunde. So it's pretty simple. There's a base and a post and the drive shaft, which is bent here, and at the other end there will be the propeller. So the propeller will move this, and then I can attach something here and pull it up, and it works better when I pull something up as opposed to pushing something up. So the first one I built was a design Anders Lunde called Churning Woman. So it's the base, the post and the drive shaft, and the woman churning the butter. So the drive shaft moves this part up and down, and here is the plunger for the butter, and it works very well. So the design is simple and it has few parts to move. I would call this one moving part if I include both arms and the plunger as one moving part. And here's one which follows the same principle, namely base, post, drive shaft. The base, the post, and the drive shaft. And this is using an idea also from Anders Lunde, and he calls it fencing the range. What I have changed is instead of pushing this part up, I'm pulling it up. So it is also very simple and works very well because there's only one part to move, and the propeller doesn't have to do much work. So I want to point out that this whirligig is one which would be called a silhouette whirligig, because the figures are basically two-dimensional and can be carved using a scroll saw. So there is not much wood carving involved. Now I altered the drive shaft a little bit. Instead of this wheel, I just used a bend in the drive shaft, which then moves the part. In this case, again, I call it one part. It's the two arms and the hammer. And it works works very well. A variation of this is a girl pumping water. Now this one has one more moving part, or one more part to move. Besides the arms, it's this part of the pump which gets moved. It's a little more complicated and a little harder to move because there's two parts. Another variation is the sawing man, the man sawing wood. Again, the base, the post, the drive shaft bent this time, the propeller, but this time it has to move 1, 2, 3 parts. The body, the arms, and the saw. So this is more complicated and it's more work for the propeller because there are 3 parts to move. The wood chopper, der Holzhacker. Same design, base, post, drive shaft, and one moving part, one part to move. The arms and the axe. The blacksmith. Again, the base, the post, and the drive shaft. And only one part to move. The arm with the hammer. So that is very simple and works very well because what we have to pull up is not very heavy and is only one part. For this particular whirligig, the blacksmith, I added a special piece. The purpose of this was to hang a sign and to put up a horse. Also, this additional piece helps to stabilize the drive shaft. I will now show how I am making this whirligig, the blacksmith. The wood I'm going to use is a 2.5 by 3/4 of an inch piece of pine wood, and another 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch piece of pine wood. And for the blacksmith, which I will be carving, I'm going to use a 5.5 by 2 inch by 7 inch piece of basswood. I could have also made the blacksmith from some pine wood if I would make it a silhouette whirligig. But nevertheless, I'm using the basswood because I want to carve the blacksmith. And I'm using a 1/8 inch brass rod and a 3/16 inch brass tool. And for the model of the blacksmith, I'm going to use some leftover wood from a construction project. And then there are other little pieces for which I'm going to use also leftover wood. The base will be made from an 18-inch piece of this pine, 2.5 by 1.75 inch. The post will be a 12-inch piece of pine, 1.5 by 1.5, and the propeller will be made also from this piece of pine wood, and I'm going to use 3 6-inch long pieces of this board. I'm making a rough model of the blacksmith from this piece of leftover wood. Now that I have a working model, I'm going to carve the real figure from a piece of basswood. To get the wood I need, I'm going to my local hardware store.